Today's episode is brought to you by High Noon Podcast Patreon. Visit patreon.com/High Noon Podcast for more info.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. Just been enjoying our well-rested first week off of primary Overwatch League content and spectating. Finally, not sick anymore. I think after the grand finals, like I was fine on Monday. You could probably hear my voice kind of go away a little bit as the episode was going on, but as the week went on, and I continued to not get the 17 hours of sleep that I needed and caught up on Saturday. It just got worse and worse.
Yeah, I was fine right after, and I had like a couple of days that were like not so great, and then one of the days I was just out, just did not feel good at all. But back to snuff, I suppose now, and ready for action. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to talk about Overwatch World Cup. We're going to talk about the All-Star Game and the rosters and stuff behind that. We're going to give our picks and all that good stuff because, spoiler alert, nothing has happened at all in the world of Overwatch League.
Not necessarily true, though.
Okay, not nothing, but
we've got two new teams in the league.
Yeah, we talked about, from last week. We talked about that last week already. It's not new to this week. I don't care what happened.
I didn't think we talked about it last week.
We definitely did. 100% did.
I was tired.
Yeah, 100% did. I know because when I make the notes for the day, I just copy the notes from last time so I get to see, A, because I'm lazy, B, because it gives me a little bit of a refresher of what happened last week. It's mostly just because of A. So that's that. Yeah, the signing window is open technically, so we could start seeing that, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe Slasher can come save us with some rumors and just throw stuff out there, man. I know he doesn't want to do that because it ruins credibility, but I just want something. We want something to nibble on. Just give us a little morsel. We don't need to fast, okay? We're big, but we want more.
One more week like this, and we'll start talking about the moves the Buffalo Bills made last night. And I don't think many people want that at all.
I'm going to start doing deck techs on the Turbo Fog deck in Magic the Gathering. So
we better get some announcements soon.
Yeah, we better get something to talk about, or else it's going to get really off topic and dry really quickly. But let's talk about one thing that is not slowing down. That, of course, is Contenders, which, of course, means Blackwatch Report is doing big stuff. They had an episode last week, and they have a special. I think they're doing 2 episodes this week. The regular episode, and they've also got a couple of guests, one of which I know is a former High Noon Hot Seat alumnus in Dogman. So they got Dogman to come on from what's the team, last week's Leftovers or something like that. Last night's Leftovers. I don't know.
Also, they didn't have an episode last week because Thorn was out of town.
Oh, that's right. Thorn has been out of town, but they are making up for it with the double.
Dogman's super hype. So Franker Z's in the chat. Sorry, podcast. You just had to say it.
Yeah. And they have another guest too, but I can't go over to the announcement right now because I can't check it.
It will break literally everything.
It will break everything. But keep an eye out for that. Yeah, Deathblow will talk to us about that.
Kate Mitchell, the manager, and then Dogman from last night's Leftovers.
Yes.
They're both from the same location.
Sweet.
Or same team.
Awesome. So, yes, the Last Night's Leftovers special episode will be, I believe, Wednesday after their normal recording. So, definitely check that one out. That's going to be a big one. No new episode from Taco from All Things Considered. I did talk to him earlier, and he's got some different. He's not sick, but he's got different IRL stuff that he's working on the last couple of weeks. He also just got back from World Cup Grand Finals as well. I have a feeling that after this week, he'll be back in the swing of things. Speaking of back in the swing of things, Around the Payload will be back tomorrow. We've got some great guests, some returning guests, and at least one brand new guest. I'll leave those ones a secret, but tune in Tuesday at 8 Eastern, twitch.tv/iNoodPodcast for that live. And then, of course, if you are not already subscribed to the Around the Payload feed, go on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to that feed as well. And last bit of High Noon Productions news here. I've been in some talks with some people, and there's going to be some. This is a classic esports announcement of an announcement of an announcement of an announcement. All I'll say is keep an eye out for new High Noon Hot Seat episodes and recordings and guests.
I was going to say, is this so high level announcement of an announcement of an announcement that I don't know about it yet? But no.
You know the rumblings of it.
Pretty exciting though. I know I'm pumped as somebody that gets to be an interviewer. So hopefully you guys will be pumped as well.
There's it's going to be good. And so that's like in the works. I've got some other stuff too. More High Noon. I think just because of the nature of how the off season works, I think the High Noon Hot Seat is going to come back much more into focus. And I've got a lot of people lined up and ready to go for that. So keep an eye out for that. The times are going to be variable on those, but they'll be put out on this feed. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But let's talk a little bit about what you guys did. And I mentioned at the top of the show the Patreon, which has been kicking around quite nicely, but we haven't plugged it in a while, so I felt the need to do that. And we also got a brand new patron, Brian C, at the $2 level. Thank you so much for that. If you would like a message read on the show, be sure to message me on Discord, or I would say also on Patreon, but sometimes those get lost in the muck of it, and Patreon's not very good at giving me messages and stuff like that. So send me a message on Discord. You should have already gotten an invite automatically through Patreon. But again, if there's any problems, just let me know, and we will fix them for you. But guys, you can always go to you can go to patreon.com/iNoonPodcast. It is the best way to support the show financially. All the trips that we go on, all of the new equipment that we get, a lot of people, we got a lot of good feedback about the live interviews that we did on the media day. That was in part from the little tripod thing that we got, that we just mounted our phones on. People like those. That sort of stuff
made the audio so much better, and that came from the patron funds. So anything, the little bits, it doesn't always have to be a lot to make a big difference and give us some new opportunities. So any little bits definitely very appreciated. Yeah,
everything is definitely helping. There's a ton of stuff that we'd love to do. I would personally love to revamp the whole merch side of it, just because it's there in case people really, really want stuff, not because we're super proud of the shirts or anything like that we designed. Like, I like the shirts, they're fine, but like they're way too expensive, and I would rather they're way too expensive for the end user. They don't cost us anything, which is really the reason we did them. I would rather be able to put some money into it, actually get a run of shirts, and go through that. So any and all patron funds always help. Just wanted to let you guys know. Patreon.com/iNoonPodcast. Okay, end the spineless shill, and let's move on to my favorite segment of the show, which we'll queue up sometime today, maybe.
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
That, of course, is the meme of the week. And man, we talked a little bit about this, and I think, Death, you've really harped on this more than anyone I've seen, with the exception of maybe Monty here. And this, of course, is in reference to Prophet. Monty tweeted out, "No All-Star team, no Korean World Cup. Prophet says screw you. I'll just take the playoffs MVP." And of course, tweeting out the picture with Prophet giving the bird to the camera.
Oh, stage one.
Yeah, good old, what a time we had.
What a world that was.
We
were so naive.
People thought the Dragons would get a win. People thought Dallas
were on the top of the world.
People thought Dallas Fuel were falling down and not just were actively bad. Houston Outlaws are on top of the world. People still doubted NYXL. Let's see what other things.
Hold on, I think don't people still doubt NYXL to an extent?
People do now, but they rightly do.
We've gone full circle with this.
Yeah.
We've gone full circle.
There were multiple players that were on teams that are no longer on teams, and at least some that will never be on teams. Also, it was just a different time. The world seemed new there. But yeah, great little meme there, guys. You can always submit your memes on the Discord in the meme section. Do that. Always appreciate the memes. I feel like I had something else to say about that. Oh, we'll be talking more about Prophet's lack of being on the World Cup and All-Star teams.
I have
in just a little
with the All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
We'll get to that soon.
Yeah, we will get to that soon. But let's move on really quick to what is hopefully not going to be the shortest segment ever coming up, but probably is this week.
It's news.
Man, this is like barely even news to talk about. It's really just a piece of. It's really not news. It's just hey, this is an interview that happened that's kind of interesting.
An excuse to play the drop, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Jacob Wolf, who you of course know from ESPN, had an interview with Rick Fox. It's about 15 minutes long. I have the link. I'll post it in the notes. That goes right to the part where he talks about Overwatch League. But Rick Fox talks about esports, Echo Fox, his meeting with the IOC, which is the International Olympic Commission, talking about esports and the Olympics. But there is a part at the end that talks about his thoughts on an Overwatch League team from Echo Fox, or the ownership group of Echo Fox, and it leaves it in a positive light. It's not like, oh no, that's just a stupid investment, we won't do that. It's more like, I mean, it was the political answer of like, we're not going to give you any answers, but it's not a denial.
It could have been no.
It could have definitely been no.
Right.
But it certainly wasn't.
About a hard no.
I definitely recommend you watch the whole video, but I'll post a link that just links it right to the Overwatch League part, which is pretty sweet. Here's an actual piece of news. Contenders is finally getting home and away skins. They're like default. They look just like Houston Outlaws skins, honestly, which I thought was weird. I'm like, is this the like Houston team? I'm like, wait, there's no Houston.
Really,
Academy
just
team. Doubles
the number of skins I need to pick though.
I don't think you can even get those though. I don't think you can buy the Contender skins. They are kind of cool. They've got the little like the Genji Overwatch, the Path to Pro logo on them. They look just like. They look almost exactly like Outlaw skins, but they're pretty cool. But now, like as you're watching Contenders, like you're gonna be able to tell which team's home and away, which is good, I guess. You're gonna at least be able to tell the team differently, other than like red and blue, which they usually do. I mean, it's just a small quality of life thing. I think it's cool that they're getting exclusive skins. Just a little wrinkle that they can add. I really like, even though we don't cover Contenders, obviously that's Blackwatch Report that does that. I personally do want them to give more support to Contenders because I feel like it's just overlooked in a lot of ways. Obviously, I want them to look more closely at Overwatch League and the support around that too. But
support goes down up. If you nurture the developing talent, the future of Overwatch League is more secure and more exciting. So,
yeah,
it's a relationship. It's not two separate.
Exactly. It feels a lot like they're two separate things, but this is, I guess, a little quality of life thing that's nice. And then also, I don't know if it's actually confirmed. Maybe it is confirmed, but Overwatch Summer Games event. It's confirmed that it's coming back. I think it's going to be out tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let me. So.
When's the Olympics? Is it the Olympics is back? We're here?
Yeah, it's been 4 years. No, they just keep running back the same event. And, like, I don't know. I think this is... And I don't even mind going off on this tangent because who knows how long this episode could be. There could be...
In classic Blevins high noon fashion, he doesn't think we have a full episode today.
Always.
We definitely do, though.
But I'm still going off on this.
I want to make on these topics.
I like, maybe I'm just spoiled by every other game, but like the stuff that Overwatch is coming out with, the events and stuff, it's just not exciting at all to me. Like, especially when it's the same exact event with the same exact game.
Me, right? This particular event should be every 4 years. In between the Olympics, it should be, summer barbecue, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
anything.
You can do anything. Doesn't even have to be like clever or witty, but this is just, it strikes me as lazy. I don't care anymore about it. I want the football skin for Reinhardt, but outside that,
right.
I really don't care at all about this event anymore. I've never been a big Lucio Ball guy. I own Rocket League. If I want to play that game, I'll just go play a better version of it. So I'm really having a hard time with getting myself excited for these events, this one in particular.
Yeah, Bare Hands brings up a good point that it's almost like the events aren't the dev team's main focus. And like, I get that, but
how much focus did I need to come up with the name Backyard Barbecue, though, is my counter to that. Like, it happened pretty fast. It lets you like bring back the Raise the Stakes skin or whatever from Soldier 76. I don't know. It's just
I think that Fortnite and games like Fortnite have changed the paradigm of how content is released, and even though Overwatch is in the new generation of games, the way that it's releasing content feels like it's an older game, and I don't like, that's not based on it, that's just how I feel, and I imagine I'm not the only person that feels that way, and it doesn't seem like that's a good thing for people to feel. So I don't know. I mean, it's not my job to figure out an answer to that, so I'm not going to try to. But I imagine Blizzard is probably looking into something like that. Maybe I'm just a one-off outlier. I don't know. But like the same event is annoying with the same game, like Lucio Ball again. Like,
to me, the big problem is that it's like very specifically an Olympics event.
Yeah,
like it's the Summer Games, the Olympic summer, the 2018 Summer Games was.
Well, I mean, that's when they started, which was cool. But like, I get that. I mean, they can take creative license to be like, oh, well, in the future, the Overwatch future, there's a Summer Games yeah, exactly. They can do whatever they want to justify it. But like Lucio Ball again, like I get that they have new people that probably want to play it, or people that really like it. Maybe it's just because I don't like it. But even like the Uprising event and the other whatever they called it this time, it just never seemed like it was worth the time to do it, and like it was barely worth one loot box. And also I think on a somewhat related note, I don't care about skins anymore because I just always want Overwatch League skins. Like it would need to be like an absolutely amazing skin for me not to rock the NYXL or sometimes Fusion, or sometimes, who did I get? Oh, I got an EQO Fusion Hanzo skin. I don't know. It's just I don't know. That whole like side of it is like, well, it needs to be excessively unique and awesome for me to not just run the Overwatch League skin. Like the Mercy skin, the Charity Mercy skin is awesome. It's exclusive, kind of. I mean, you can't get it anymore, so that's kind of cool. And like I'll use that because that's exclusive, but everything else is just like auto Overwatch League skin, not close. Okay, and completely meaningless rant about me not caring about the event that's coming out that I'm sure a lot of people are very happy about. But let's move on here and
let's break it.
I don't know, what do you want to start with? World Cup or All-Star game?
We should go World Cup first.
Okay, let's start with the World Cup. So we finally got it. We've talked about talking about it for so long, but we were like, we're just gonna wring out that grand finals towel as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the Overwatch World Cup. So if you're unfamiliar with how the format of it works, there are 4 different qualifier groups with, I believe, how many teams are in it? 6? No.
6.
Yeah, 6. Yep. 6 teams in each group. They're going to play round robin, and the top 2 teams advance onto the top 8, which play at BlizzCon. Is that correct? That all 8 teams go to BlizzCon?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure there. So the first one is we've got a South Korea qualifier, which has Russia, Japan, Finland, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Chinese Taipei in it. We've got
this one's coming up soon, by the way. I just want to point this out. August 16th is the first match. It's 8 p.m. Pacific time, and it runs through August 19th. So World Cup is coming up very, very quickly.
Very
quickly.
There will be
only one more episode between now and when you get to start watching World Cup.
Yeah. So while we're here, why don't we just talk about these teams? Death, who are you picking here to make it out of this qualifier?
Yeah, we were talking in the pre-show, and to me, the South Korea and the U.S. qualifiers seem a little bit solved to me. Now, that does create the opportunity for some really pog-champy upsets and crazy stories, so there's still a lot of excitement to watching these. But looking over the rosters, I mean, there's no way you're not going to pick South Korea this qualifier, obviously, especially on home turf. We know what their team is. It's NYXL minus Pine minus Libero is there. I'm trying to think. Minus a couple NYXL players, and then they're adding in
no Janice. I got hold on. But while we're talking about, I'm going on another tangent. I'm going full blown old school HNP tangent mode here. When we were at the grand finals, I was talking to a friend who I won't name because I don't want to out them. And we were talking about NYXL and how we're NYXL fans, and we're like, man, I just love every player on that team. And then he just like pauses for a second. And he's just like, except for Janice. I hate Janice. I'm like, I wouldn't say I hate him, but I get very nervous every time he comes in the game. Okay, end rant.
So there's a couple of NYXL players not there. Notably, the tanks, both Mono and Janice, are not in this roster here. Yeah. And then they're adding in, Kareev, Fleta, Fate, Fissure, Fury, and Carpe.
Just like the top players.
Literally, I mean, we've talked about this before. I mentioned it on ATP. South Korea continues to do with the World Cup what everybody should be doing and nobody else seems to be doing. And that's trying to win, because their people, their fans want to win, and they just send the best players, and it's why they do so well every single year. Korea has this, wealth of talent to choose from, and they're leaning on the dominance of NYXL's regular season performance here to kind of bring that core along, and then obviously shore things up with some players who do ridiculous things like Fissure and Carpe and Fleta. I just went through the list, so you remember them. But so South Korea straight away, obviously the favorites to win the entire thing out of the end of it. So you've got to go with them to advance. A team that I'm not going to pick here, but I do think has an outside chance at it, is Russia. They do have some notable players. I'm always say the name wrong. It's like Tao or Sao, and then Tonic on the tank line are names that we've seen in the past. Prior to Overwatch League. I'm not 100% sure where all their Contenders homes are. I don't think Tonic is on a Contenders team. But they've also got Mistakes in Shadowburn. They've got Unfixed, and that's the last of them that really stand out as like players we're very, very familiar with. But I just think that quality of DPS gives them an opportunity against, let's say one of the other teams, the one I'm about to name, Finland, really slips up or has any issues there. I think they've really got an opportunity to maybe, sneak their way out here over Finland. But I am going to be picking Finland to be my second team. I mean, this team to me seems like they've got their bases covered here. However much you believe in all of these players from an Overwatch League standpoint is really neither here nor there, because they only have to beat out the rosters of Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, Japan, and Russia, which are not full Overwatch League rosters. So but looking at this roster here, we've got Fraggy at tank. I mean, I've been going on and on about how I like Fraggy for an entire season so far.
It's one of the few
Linkser, no surprises that I'm a big fan of Linkser here. Taimu back in form a little bit at the end of the season in Overwatch League. I'm really excited to see him maybe with a different set of players here and a different supporting cast. We've got Zupe, Zappis, all these guys are Overwatch League. And then the support line here of Shaz and Big Goose is really just kind of the staple, right? Those guys have synergy together. They've been playing together for a long time. We saw what they were able to do for the Gladiators. And I just think that level of support from the support line, go figure, is going to fill any holes and any gaps that this Finland team has, and I think at least do enough to push them through into the top 8 and get these guys to BlizzCon. If for no other reason, it's another chance for us to meet and hang out with Fraggy, so we really want that to happen. Blevins, I know you have the same 2 teams leaving the stage here. Anything you want to add to the conversation?
I mean, so basically the only thing I'll add to Finland here is their whole team is Overwatch League players, and then the rest of their team is filled out with Team Giganti players. And I mean, Fraggy, formerly on Giganti, Shaz and Big Goose were also and Lynxer too, right? Like this is almost no. Shaz and Big Goose were on. They were.
I can't remember where they came from, but I don't think
it wasn't 1, 2, 3. Was it? No, maybe. I don't know. I'm forgetting the all that Contenders knowledge just went out. But I mean, they have a core.
No, they were Giganti.
Okay, I was gonna say, so most of this team, actually, with the exception of Taimu, Zappis, and Zuppe, the entire team was on Giganti, at least at one point or another. So they've got that advantage of like. I've heard arguments in the Olympics of like just send the team that wins the NBA Finals to the Olympics. A little bit different there, but like just send a core team and maybe enhance them with a couple of players, kind of like what South Korea did. Like send a core team if you can. Obviously, you can't do that with every team or with every country, but this is, I think, a really good decision. They've got the core of Giganti and former Giganti players, and with a couple of additions that I think can kind of round out the roster.
Yeah, I think there's more than enough firepower there for Finland to really be able to kind of carry themselves through. Plus, I mean, some of my I've been a big Shaz Big Goose fan, and Lynxer obviously, and Fraggy. So honestly, almost more so than the U.S. roster, the Finland roster has individual players that I've been big fans of and been rooting for a while. So
yeah. So I'm sure like one of these, I think in one of these 2 qualifiers, we're going to see at least a birth of a team. I don't know if we're going to see any huge upset here, but I think in the South Korea qualifier or the USA qualifier, they're pretty much there's safe bets to make. And in the South Korea qualifier, that's of course South Korea and Finland. Moving on to the
I was just going to say, for the SK qualifier, day 2 notably is a really stacked day to me. You get to see Finland go against South Korea, and it's a really good measuring stick for that Finland team, I think. Like if they can go, even if they lose, but they lose like 3-2 or in a close fashion, I think that'll say a lot about their chances when they get to BlizzCon. And then also you have Russia versus Finland, and it's going to be a really big match for Russia. If they're going to be able to overtake Finland, they're going to have to win the matchup against them. It's almost worth 2, right? Like you get yourself a win and then you hang a loss on the people you need to catch up to. So definitely keep an eye on day 2. It should be.
Yeah, and one thing Bare Hands in the chat mentioned, Russia made it to the finals 2 years ago of the Overwatch World Cup. So they're definitely not one to sleep on. I think if you were going to pick someone that's not South Korea or Finland, Russia is probably number 3 in this stage. So let's move on to the USA qualifier. That qualifier consists of Canada, USA, Brazil, Switzerland, Austria, and Norway. And spoiler alert, we've both got USA, Canada here. Is there anything really to be said about any of the other teams?
I mean, there's individual players that we can talk about on some of these other teams, and we got a little bit of the scoop from Bare Hands on this Brazil roster. You know, that's the Brazil Gaming House team that's kind of coming together, so they'll have that pre-established synergy, and they will have some, leg up here on some of these. Can we still just use the word Junkenstein's monster? It feels almost lazy at this point.
It is, but you forget what show you're on if you think that's unacceptable.
So I mean, they're going to have a little bit of synergy, and you can't sleep on them completely, I don't think. But I personally love both the Canadian and USA rosters. I think they're in a really, really good spot to make it through the groups. Even despite the fact that they're there, they've got to be together though, right? Like, I mean, the rivalry of Sinatra and Raucus at the grand finals, talking smack on Canada a little bit. They said they'd be surprised if they didn't 4-0 them, that last year it wasn't even close, that the scrims were just really lopsided, and they don't think the two countries are on even footing. Last year that might have been true. I do think they've leveled up a little bit, Canada did, and Canada overperformed expectations by a lot last year. So it's funny to hear them say that. Now they made it farther than USA, but USA fell on the South Korean grenade immediately in the first round, which definitely skews things a little bit. But and also, I really just want to see Raucus shut everybody up. There was so much conversation about this roster. Should it be Raucus? Should it be Sleepy? Everybody seemed to be so sure that it should have been Sleepy. And I gotta say, I don't see that, especially leaving the playoffs here from Overwatch League, knowing what the most recent meta is and what they're most likely to be playing on, which is something that is going to want that flex support to be able to move into the Roadhog role. Potentially, do more flexing. If you wanted to have a conversation about who's the better pure Zenyatta player between the two, fine. I think that's a worthy conversation and a pretty close one, to be honest with you. Although the stats favor Raucus, sorry, Sleepy fans. I don't, I would still fight you on that one.
Sleepy spikes more than Raucus, I think.
Yes, he definitely does. Raucus is a little bit more consistent. Yes, and you remember the spikes from Sleepy, and Sleepy was a surprise this year. Like I don't want to. I hate when I have to pick a side in these conversations, because then it's like I'm down on Sleepy, and I'm not. I thought he was like a treat to watch this year in Overwatch League. But I never really understood why it was like a shock to people, right? Like at least it's got to be close, right? Like I'm in the Raucus camp, and even I thought it was pretty close, and I wouldn't have been mad if it gone either direction. So it was a little crazy to me that people were so upset about it. But at the end of the day, what can you do, I suppose? But yeah, so I really like the USA and Canada here. I would be honestly floored if a different two teams left it. As far as who's got a chance, I won't go beyond Brazil. I can't imagine Switzerland, Austria, or Norway put together enough of a solid team performance to really even beat the individual skill performances of the USA and Canada rosters.
Yeah, there's rumblings in the chat about Norway being a good team, but they're all with the caveat of not good enough to actually beat the Canada or USA, but they're both Brazil and Norway are the two other teams to look at. So, yeah, this I think is the most USA is the most solved. I think Russia may throw a wrench into the South Korea qualifier, but USA Canada, I mean, they're the favorites. They're the favorites to win it. They're the favorites of most people that are watching Overwatch League to advance. We want to see the rivalries. Everything screams USA Canada making it out of here. And
the USA fans are going to root for Canada when they're not playing against USA. I really think that's true over the likes of Brazil, Switzerland, Austria, and Norway.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get excited about them, those countries, as a citizen of the U.S. So
returning T-Mobile MVP XQC is on the Canadian team.
Yeah, there's fan favorites there. Surefour, obviously, built himself a decent fan base in Overwatch League. So yeah, I really think it's going to be home matches for these guys.
Yeah,
and except for when Canada plays against the USA, then the crowd
might
will
be the most away match.
USA. Right.
Yeah, the other matches will just be subdued, but USA versus Canada, I think, is going to be more USA centric than any of the other matches, I think.
Yeah, and as Bearhands is saying in chat, because he loves to drop truth bombs and knowledge nuggets on us while we're doing the show. The seeding is really important leaving the groups, though. So even if it's solved, there is a good amount of question or I guess information to be gleaned and a lot to be gained from a good performance there, because the matchup between the two could be really, really important. Who gets the 1 seed versus who gets the 2 seed. Although, if USA gets the 1 seed, South Korea will pull a Nixel and choke at some point and earn the 2 seed, and then we'll get against them right away. Anyways, right. I'm sure that'll happen. But
whatever the worst possibility is, we'll I'm sure get it.
Whatever gets us to play South Korea in the first round feels inevitable.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say.
Almost certainly. But let's move on here to the Thailand qualifier. Here's where the certainty starts to drop off a little bit. Not as many safe bets here. In this Thailand qualifier, we've got China, Thailand, Spain, Australia, Sweden, and Denmark. as the teams in this group. Death, who do you got here? I know you're definitely not as sure as the other.
I'm a little non-committal here. Listen, when I look at the rosters, the one that stands out to me as the most likely to make it is Sweden. I know people have a lot of questions about Reinforce, but their other option was Swoosh. And I've got to say, from what I saw of Reinforce when he was leaving, like he stepped out. Also, I love his signature heroes. When you look at his player card on the World Cup website, it says Bastion, May, Torbjorn. Love it. But, you know, he got kind of pushed out because his Winston wasn't necessarily up to snuff, and he's had a lot of time to work on the mechanics of the hero. So I think if they need that, I feel confident he can play that well. And it's not like Swoosh was a world beater, so I don't know that we really lost a lot by having Reinforce here over him. But his Reinhardt was always very good. Orisa wasn't a hero when he played last. And it's not like the guy's been out of the game.
Right.
Like he's been standing there watching the best players in the world, interacting with them, talking with them. The casting talent gets to observe scrims, so he's up to date on strategy.
Yeah.
But enough on the tank line here, because we can have that conversation for almost an entire episode, I think, on its own. But yeah, on support, you have Zebasai, you have Chipsajin. You know, I don't know 100% which of these 7 is actually going through, but they have some really good DPS players as well. I mean, they've got IDDQD, his one map, he popped off. That's all we have on the guy. I have to assume he's still got it. He's scrimming a lot, or not scrimming a lot, streaming a lot, I should say.
Not streaming a lot of Overwatch.
They've also got Tavik and Snillo here, players that have been active for us. They've got Manitin. You know, Nevix is here. Like there's a lot of talent on this Sweden roster. It's deep, and I think they're going to be just fine to escape this group of teams that otherwise outside of Sweden doesn't impress me too much, if I'm being honest. Now, my second team here, I'm going to take Spain. I'm going to buy into some of the hype, right? I'm going to say that Dak, despite being a little bit of a weakness in the Overwatch League, is not playing on an Overwatch League stage in this event. So I think he's going to be able to be back to a solid, you know, producing member of the team. Him and Harry Hook on the support line seems good to me. They also have Neptuno as well, so I don't know that they're necessarily going to be playing Dak either. On the tank line, I've heard a lot of really good things about Networks. I haven't seen him play much yet, but he seems to be more of the Orisa Rhine kind of tank, which I think is going to is suiting the meta that I guess we're likely to play. They've also got Bromas, who's been around. You know, if you've been with us for longer than Overwatch League, that name won't be familiar or won't be you know, completely strange to you. Line Pros as support, I've heard good things about. I don't know a ton about him. So there's a lot of options here. The thing that worries me, if anything, is the DPS line. Toxican's not a new name to us, but he's a very good projectile player from, you know, the past pre-Overwatch League. Poppy Fresh, though, I know nothing about. He's the hit scan guy. I'm a little bit blind there, but there's definitely question marks and issues on the Spain roster, but I do think there's enough star power. Starting things off with the best Mercy player in Overwatch League for me with Neptuno is a really good way to begin. So I think that kind of Mercies can carry. You know, you don't necessarily see it on the kill feed or anything like that.
Although with Neptuno you do.
Yeah, but with Neptuno you most certainly do. And despite the kind of crushing defeat of Philly in the finals, there was a time when you looked at me and said, "All right, I'm sold." Talking about Neptuno, like I'm done worrying about the fact that
he was at the grand finals.
Yes, that was at the grand finals, sitting in the arena. So you know, the guy, even when he's dying early and everything like that London was able to really expose him a little bit. I'm still not overly concerned there. So looking at the other teams, though, I mean, I'm not confident in Spain. So I'm going to give a nod to China and Australia. I'm going to let you talk about China because I know you're picking them. But we've seen the Australia lineup last year. They really impressed me. They looked really good. I'm blanking on his name. Atar, I think it was, is not on this roster, and he was one that really stood out to me. Now, he was like a Genji superstar, and I don't know that you need to worry about carrying a Genji superstar right now, so maybe that's why. But they've got I Eat You Up, they've got Trill, and obviously Custa is one that's been around and we're very familiar with. And I really think Custa gives them an opportunity to elevate the rest of the talent. And you know, we saw him be a very good stabilizing force and a leader for the Valiant as they went in with the 2 seed into the playoffs, which surprised everybody. And just, I mean, we got the chance to meet and talk to Costa a little bit. He's an impressive guy. I think he's can do a lot for a team. So I think Australia has an outside shot here to take that spot from Spain. And why don't you talk to us about your two teams here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said about Sweden. I'm not as sold. I mean, I'm kind of in the middle on Reinforced because on the one hand, yes, he was good when he played on Rogue. He obviously went into casting, which as someone who, if I were in the same spot, probably would have went the same direction that he did, like into casting. And so, I mean, I think he's a little bit younger than me, but not by too much. Like you get the job that you can do for a long, like it's more job security than being a player, but he has that competitive edge. He's been playing, like you said, he's able to watch scrims, but I also don't have a reason to believe that he's better than another player who has been doing scrims and has been on a team and has been playing with a team, even if he's been keeping up on the analytical side. I don't have too much of a reason to believe that he's any better than that, but I'm still picking Sweden.
Just to be devil's advocate, the reason to believe that is that he was in a tryout process with the other best Swedish tanks that could have been involved and supposedly outperformed them. We have no reason to think he didn't. So I'm willing to take that at face value and say that he might not be the best tank in the world, but he was probably their best option.
He can certainly be, if nothing else, a leader of the team, and which I think is very important for these, scrap together teams that aren't, on the same team. So yeah, I'm going with China here for a couple of reasons. Obviously, they were they were respectable last year in the World Cup. There's a couple of returners here. Unfortunately, not Eileen. So, Death, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to start.
That's why I didn't pick him.
But not even specifically for the players, but because of what the players are playing for. Obviously, we got the announcement of the expansion team for Overwatch League Season 2 is in China. So it would make sense for Chinese players to be on that team if they're doing it anything like the Shanghai Dragons did. I mean, they just naturally are going to want players from China, right? So these players are playing for even more than just the World Cup potentially. They need to put their best foot forward, more so than any other player, or at least as much, if not more, than any other player in the Overwatch World Cup. The Overwatch League players, they don't necessarily. I mean, maybe they need to increase their trade value or their stock or whatever, but like players that are locked on a team, like they're playing for pride, which is great, and China also playing for that. But none of Sky is the only player that is currently on the Chinese Overwatch World Cup team that's on a roster right now. That Sky's on the Shanghai Dragons. Maybe wants to trade or wants to increase that stock, but all of the other players are playing on non-Overwatch League teams. There's an Overwatch League expansion team coming to China. If I were a Chinese player and wanted to be in the Overwatch League, now there's probably not going to be a better time than right now to put your best foot forward and get picked up for that expansion team. So I think most, if not all, the teams are going to be playing to win this, but there's an added incentive for China to perform very well. So that's how I'm feeling about that. I don't think it's a coincidence or an accident that there's only one Overwatch League player on the Chinese team when there were plenty of potential players. I think that these players were picked for a reason and are on the team for a reason. So that's how I feel about China. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and maybe they just pull dragons. I mean, I think if I were if it's not really
they made
analogous.
It last year, I'll say that.
Yeah, if it were like if Overwatch League were reversed and it were in China or Korea and there's only one USA team and that team went 0-40, and I were a USA player, I would try my hardest to at every point in time that I had the opportunity to be like, that's not us. I am going to prove that wrong. I am better than that. So there's like all sorts of angles, intangibles that are added to this. But the Overwatch World Cup is an event that is based a lot on intangibles, obviously on skill too. But when we talk to bare hands, it's not all about clicking heads. It's about how you work as a team. It's about how you're playing and a lot of other things. So I see a lot of that potential in the Chinese team. So I'm going with China and Sweden. Honestly, not going to be surprised if neither of those teams make it, or if both make it. I'm not going to be surprised. But
very wide open qualifier. Like you said, wouldn't be at all surprising if we were both wrong on all of our choices.
For sure. Moving on to the last group here, that is the France qualifier. That it includes the UK, Germany, Poland, Netherlands, France, and Italy. Death, who do you got?
So I'm going to go with the UK and France out of this one. This is another one that's very, very wide open. I'm not, swept away by any of these rosters. But when we look at the UK, I mean, we've got Christopher riding the high noon bump still. We've got names that stand out to me as people we've seen before. Cruz is a player that I've been a big fan of. He was on my, making an expansion team roster that we did at the beginning of the Overwatch League season. They've got Kib, who has proven to be a very impact DPS player. Mikey A is another one who's proven to be an impactful DPS player. They've got Smex and Boombox and just a variety of players to choose from that I feel comfortable with. I know them a little bit. They didn't have the strongest showing once they got into BlizzCon last year, but at the end of the day, they got there, and I think they're going to be able to repeat that, especially out of what I think is one of the softer groups, but at the same time, one of the most fun and volatile groups. The other one, who did I say here, was France. France is, I mean, I'm kind of just, this one I'm like leaning really heavily on name recognition. Right? They've got Soon, they've got Unko, they've got Wins, they've got Poco, they've got AKM. I guess that's a boost. They've got Nico. Jokes aside on AKM, you put him in a role he's comfortable with, and you give him the opportunity to succeed, and he certainly can. It wasn't all Genji memes on Dallas.
That's
Fuel.
right. Can I go back and retroactively change the meme of the week to AKM's Genji tips video, because that is certainly it. That's the real meme of the week. Sorry, guys.
A good one too. I'll go back and change a month ago to the Baby Bay rap I accidentally stumbled into yesterday or the day before that I didn't see when it was new. So we've got a lot of memes of the weeks we missed, but nonetheless, so I don't know. France to me just seems like a solid collection of good players. They really all spots here. They've got obviously Poco on the tank line. I'm a little unsure of Kolsty. I don't know him very well, but I have to
that
think.
Name sounds familiar. I don't know why.
I think he was around beforehand, but I don't know what he's been doing for quite some time. So, I don't know. I have questions, obviously, with this France roster, but at the end of the day, I think on skill alone, if you can get Soon playing close to what he was doing in Stage 4, and you get Poco doing what he's done just about every time he's been allowed to be on the stage. And you've got Unko, but, he played really well throughout the season. And there's some teamwork there between Unko and AKM that they can lean on. Wins will stand on the payload like nobody's ever seen before. I believe he can do it. I'm going to go with France there, as well as the UK to advance. I'll leave Blevins to kind of talk about any of the spoilers that might prop up, but Poland won't do it.
Yeah,
I know that one.
Real quick, a note on Kolsty. I just looked him up. The reason he sounds familiar is because he played for Gamers Origin, Movistar Riders, and was a sub for Rogue in Contenders Season 1 in 2017. So,
but like nothing in like Contenders during OWL, I don't think.
Not. He may. No. But we probably remember him from either Gamers Origin or Movistar Riders, is what I'm imagining that we remember him from. But
he's been on Bazooka Puppies. Like he's been around, but hasn't really like stuck anywhere, and that makes it hard to keep track of him.
Exactly. I don't know why that name jumped out to me, but yeah, I had France here for basically the same exact reasons that you said. A lot of name recognition. I mean, I'm really bullish on Poco right now. I mean, regardless of Philly's performance at the grand finals, like Poco was exceptional there. Like he was back to stage 1, week 1 Poco bombs, like his ultimate, like it was no longer like, oh, they've got 5 ults and a diva bomb that we don't care about. It was this diva bomb has the potential to completely warp this fight, and like you have a shot with that. So I'm very excited for Poco. And then I mean the supporting cast is there, like you already mentioned, but honestly, I'm not even as big on the UK as you are. I mean, the one thing that they do have is that they've got a base of the what are they? The London Hurricane? Is that what the Contenders team is called? They've got a few of the Contenders, the Academy team players, which is
British
good.
Hurricane.
British Hurricane, yeah. And then Christopher obviously riding the high noon bump, and some other notable players, but. I mean, how can you run the UK team here and not use a single London Spitfire player? Like they just won the grand finals. Like I don't get it. Why are there? Oh, sorry. I hope I debated at least one person there. But no, I think this is this is a wide open one. I mean. I just know so little about Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, and like the other teams that like it's probably UK, France, but like I don't even. I'll put some stock into France because shout outs to Rogue, but I don't even have enough confidence in the UK that they're going to make it here.
Yeah, I'm not like it's a poor categorization to say I'm like bullish on the UK. I'm just I've got nothing on the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Like there's names where I'm like, hey, all right.
You've got to check a box, so you're going to check a box. I'm just choosing not to because
I'm being forced to pick, so I'll go UK. France.
I'm going France and wild card. I'm playing my Joker here. I can just have that fill in.
Somebody's got to lose to the U.S. in the first round.
Yeah,
it's going to be South Korea, and then in the second round we'll play one of these teams.
A man can dream. A man can dream. Okay. Wow. How are we already at 52 minutes?
I told you, bro. I told you.
Do we even want to talk about the All-Star team?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Let's do it. We're going to talk about the All-Star rosters here. This is basically going to be a death blow rant because he's had this locked and loaded and ready, and I just want to watch this. So for the Pacific Division, the starters, we have Fissure, Kusta, Gaguri, Fleta, Jaehong, and Siegel. For the Atlantic Division, we have Jonak, Sabiobi, Pine, Arc, Carpe, and Gesture. I'm not going to go through every one of the subs, but notably in the Atlantic Division, do you know someone who's not there?
I know a lot of people that aren't here.
It's Prophet. Prophet is the notable one.
And I want to look at the Pacific
Finals
Division,
MVP.
Pacific Division replacements or alternates, whatever you want to say. Just round of applause. Round of applause. You guys, I thought you guys did a great job. I think you got pretty darn close to the right roster. Now let's look at the Atlantic Division backup. Okay, Badosin, fine, well deserved. Meko, fine. Muma, fine. Neko, fine. Gamzu, okay. I don't want to sit here and think about other options, but I'm
more
okay.
like Gams who? Huh? Am I right? Am I right? I'm not right.
Poco, yep, got to be there. Saya player, Libero, maybe Libero. I don't know that he had to be there. Mono, probably. It's another one of those cases of like I don't want to go find other replacements for these guys. They performed well. To me, it's who's not here.
Yeah.
Okay. There's players missing from this list in the Atlantic Division. Okay. Birdring, I'm sorry. At no point throughout season 1 were you better than Prophet. At no point ever. First bell to the last bell. Never were you outperforming Prophet. The fact that Birdring is here over Prophet is mind-blowing, and that was before. I've been saying this to Blevins and people in Discord well before the playoffs.
Yeah.
As soon as this was announced, it was ridiculous. Fury, you snuck in, bud. I'll say that. Your playoff performance was more than good enough. It makes me want to see you. You're lucky. But again, it's about who we're missing here,
right.
Okay? Are we really going to be – am I supposed to be excited – about a Widowmaker free-for-all duel that doesn't include Linkster? I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't care anymore because I think he's the best one. Yeah. And now we'll never know, right? Because now I don't care what happens in that event. And I know there's plenty of people that think I'm crazy. the Widowmaker play will probably still be super hype. But I mean, come on, how are we leaving this guy off? And how is Prophet not in there? It's just mind-numbing to me. He was MVP caliber all season long. I don't care that the team struggled. Look at his performance. Watch him play. And I think it was very, very apparent. And this is a lot of being very upset over, 2 spots. But I'm sorry, they're a big deal to me. And the starting rosters are, okay, they're not perfect. There's
well, they're certainly not perfect.
But they're fan picked. They're fan picked,
right.
And I'm okay with that. They don't need to be perfect for that reason.
Right.
But there's 2 players to me that have to be here in order for this to be an all-star game, and they're not there. And every time I see Birdring pick a hero, I'm going to be angry. And every time there's a Widowmaker on the Atlantic side and it's not Linkser, I'm going to be a little angry, though there's others, that's a separate conversation of whether or not he's the best.
Right.
But you've got to admit, throughout watching season 1, that he should have deserved a spot here. And I'm going to call out Libero and say maybe he didn't. The postseason was when Libero really fell off to me. And so that's not what this is about. This is picked from the regular season. But at the end of the day, we're looking at players that came in halfway. Listen, Saya Player was an absolute beast, and I'm fine with him being here. But at the cost of somebody that was lights out from the beginning,
literal
on the
grand finals MVP.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just. I don't want it to be like I'm down on any of these players. I think there's potentially, without looking at the rosters exactly and who could potentially fill in. I question whether or not all the best tanks got in here as well. But yeah, there's just these 2 notable exclusions to me of Prophet and Linkser. And Linkser's upsetting to me on a personal level, and Prophet is like offensive to me on I'm a fan of top level Overwatch play. And how do you construct an all-star game that doesn't include that man? So they're different conversations for sure. Listen, I mean, Pine was great, but I guess that's the fan vote. I got to leave Pine alone because he deserved his fan vote, fan love.
The thing about Pine is like, if this is a 6v6 regular match, Pine is playing tank in this lineup right now, or Carpe is, or SBV is.
Put Arc on it.
Put Arc on it, but then you're
saying you don't want to see Jonak play Roadhog, Blevins?
No, I don't want to see Jonak play Roadhog. I sure don't.
We saw that. Oh, that's right. That didn't.
I sure don't. I want to I get, and believe me. This might have the 6 starters might be the 6 people I actually picked for the Atlantic Division. I probably wrongly put Pine in the starting spot too, but Pine, the roster just doesn't make sense. The starting lineup just doesn't make sense from we need to play this game. It's we're gonna pick the 6 most. Why don't they just run 6 DPSs? Screw it. Just run 6 DPSs. Maybe that's what they'll do.
Flashbacks to comp.
Yeah, I'm also kind of surprised, although I guess I'm surprised that Mickey didn't win a fan vote here up in the starting position. I get he's on the roster, but more people like Jae Hong. I understand Seagull, and I guess I understand
the
Jae
Koreans
Hong.
get the vote too.
Yeah, but
so I don't think they have any
Mickey,
problem
man.
with Mickey.
It's Mickey.
Yeah, they've
Mickey.
got to love Mickey too.
How can you not love Mickey? He should be.
It's impossible to not love Mickey. As much as I love to give Dallas Fuel fans, flack, and I love to pick on the Fuel, I've never said anything bad about Mickey. It's not a possible thing to do. It is a little surprising he didn't get the fan vote. But
yeah, the All-Star game means actually nothing, and it's
especially without Prophet and Linkser in it. Just saying.
Right. So I don't even care that much that it was fan voted, so who cares about it? But still, the All-Star game for the NBA is pretty much a joke. It's the best players actually don't play in those games because they just it's kind of evolved into it's just the young players that play now.
Right.
Right. So
and listen, that's to me is a different story too, because it happens in the NFL a lot. I don't even watch the Pro Bowl usually, partially because they moved it before the Super Bowl, so everybody in the Super Bowl can't play in it. They're busy game planning and not being in Hawaii or wherever the thing is. But invite them and then let them decline. Let that be public. oh, if let's say Prophet was asked and didn't want to do it, right? Because that could very well have been the case. I don't know. But you need to announce him on the team and then let Prophet go. Unfortunately, with the limited amount of time I have to spend time with my family back, whatever he wants to say, I don't really care. But just give them like the honor and the notoriety and the publicity. And for all I know, the same thing's true with Linkser. I know he's really into the World Cup. Maybe he wants to get back into, get back to Finland, see his family, get grouped up with the guys from Finland, and go from there. I really don't know. But at the end of the day, all I'm told by looking at this list, and because at the bottom end, the fill-ins, I don't think those were fan vote. I think the fans voted the top 6. The rest were filled in by staff and things like that.
Yeah.
So all I'm being told is that the people that work for Overwatch League and the casting talent think Birdring is better than Prophet. And I don't get it. That's the only person I would think would do that, and I don't think he actually would, but then I could see it, is like Monty. But it's not even like a Korean versus a non-Korean, right? Like it's just a better Korean bias versus a Korean that underperformed for 3 stages.
I think I'm trying to think. No, the only person I can think, maybe you can confirm this or not, but I don't think they work for Overwatch League. I think Birdring's mom might, but I don't think that she works for Overwatch League. So this makes no sense whatsoever.
I'd have to check the payroll.
Yeah, we gotta check and see, is Birdring's mom actually on the All-Star game committee?
After winning the finals, she's probably got some Overwatch League money in her bank account now, I would think. The players love to take care of their parents when they win big prizes.
Or at least they like to say that in the pre-match thing that's recorded. And
although if I ever said that on TV, my dad would be showing up like let's go.
Yeah.
It's a verbal contract, Jim. Let's go.
No, I would. This is what I would do if I was like, I'm going to, all my, I'm going to set my parents up with this, that, and the other thing. I'd be like, all they need to do is just answer 5 simple questions about Overwatch, and they'd be very like, and they'd be multiple choice. Which type of game is Overwatch? Is it a MOBA? Is it an FPS? Is it an MMO? Like, just very basic things, and they would only need to get a 60% or higher. So they'd need a 3 out of 5. I think that's fair.
Name one hero your son has played in Overwatch.
Just name one hero from Overwatch.
They'd hit you with the Symmetra pick and make you mad.
Yeah, I'd get upset.
It would count, though. It would count.
I would make the questions very easy for them. I'm stern but fair, I think, is what I would be called. But yeah,
to put a bow on my rant, the thing I was most excited for about All-Star Weekend was the potential for that Widow duel-off, right? That Widow matchup. And I'm just really mad that, like, yes, Birdring will be included in that, but like, it's not better because he's there. It would be better with somebody that wasn't invited in Linkser, and the team would be better if Prophet was there instead of Birdring. And like, it's not about outside of that one pick. It's not about who was invited. It's about who wasn't invited. I'm just not sold that the right choices were made on the Atlantic side.
Okay, so going into the All-Star game, are you rooting for Atlantic or Pacific Division? Not based on team allegiances, based on roster alone. Who are you rooting for?
I think even with the exclusions, I really thought Overwatch League was pretty stacked on the Atlantic side of things as far as talent goes. So just looking at the rosters, who I think is going to win, if I got to pick the thing, if everything
not who you think is going to win. Who are you rooting for? Who do you want to win?
I mean, 0-41 for the Shanghai Dragons. That's all I can say. We'll go for the Atlantic side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm picking the Atlantic side, but they also got my favorite London Spitfire player in Jester on the team as well. So kudos. But I mean, I'm surprised that you're rooting against Fissure. How could you?
I mean, I like Fissure, but I'm not like a Fissure fanboy or anything like that. Like Muma or Fissure, who do you think I'm going with?
I know what one you should go with. I know which one. It's not completely close, not particularly close, but yeah, I want, the only thing I really want from the All-Star game is I think they really should go They should go over the top. Like, I want this to look more like a WWE presentation than just an exhibition match of Overwatch. Because, honestly, I think if they just make it, like, very, like, oh, this is an Overwatch league, this is an Overwatch match, and we're going to do some wacky things, like everyone plays Widow, and like, that is, I think, going to be very boring. Or maybe it won't be boring because we haven't watched Overwatch, but I'm not sold. They need to go over the top on this. There was a League of Legends event that happened, I think, last month or maybe the month before. That was, God, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a battle of NA versus EU, and they just, like, the talent, the players, the casters, everything went, like, and just, like, drifted into the skid of, like, NA versus EU, and there was trash talk, and, like, literally they had half NA casters and half EU casters, and when either side would lose, like, the EU casters would have to go over and cast from what they called the garbage desk. That was literally like a $50 like Target chair that said, like, trash desk on it, and, like, had a bunch of, like, literal trash on it, and they were, like, smack talking the whole time. It, like, I don't care about League of Legends at all. I watched that event because I thought the format was really cool and it was funny. It's pulled off well. Like, it was a little cringy at some points, but, like, they swerved right into the skid on it. Like, we're doing the full blown, like, grudge match, like, we're making everything count, we're gonna, like, throw shade at each other the whole time. Like, they were doing weird formats, and the players, like, the players were mic'd up and they were talking smack to each other too. It was great. Like, the whole production was great, and I would love it if the All-Star game was like that, but it'll be tough for them to pull it off. I don't have high hopes for it, is all I'll say.
I don't know that they'll want to go that in depth with it. Like, I could see doing stuff with the casters, but, like, there's been a couple too many incidents with players this season, maybe, to really trust, like, them to be fully mic'd up and on air without any warning or anything like that. That might be a little too much. We'll see.
And I mean, that's fine. And Overwatch League has not wanted to push anything. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the politics of it because I don't care enough about it. All I'll say is that League of Legends event got me to watch it for, like, 6 hours, and I just don't care even a little bit about League of Legends. So maybe it's a good format. If they want help with it, let me know, because I'll definitely help writing that show. But that's going to be it, I think. Do we have anything else that we want to talk about? Any last things on Overwatch World Cup or All-Star Game or things that are happening? Anything?
I don't think so. We got a little bit before the All-Star game, but yeah, just be ready for World Cup because it's coming up fast. It's going to sneak up on you if you're not ready for it.
Yeah. So Bare Hands brings up the good point that the League of Legends event probably wasn't on Disney. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't sell the Disney sponsorship. That's not my fault. And I blame everyone that did. No.
I didn't know Disney hated fun. Disney hates fun.
You didn't know that? I'm not going to make an inappropriate comment about Disney and hating things. You can put that's too low hanging fruit. That's going to be it, guys. That's going to be it for this episode. A lot of rant. This felt like an old school episode in a lot of ways. I felt good about it. But so if there's anything that you want us to talk about or anything you want to see covered more in depth, let us know soon, because if it's something that we're not up to date on, like, I'm happy to do research during the week and whatnot. So let us know in the HNP Discord. That is discord.me/HighNoonPodcast. Around the Payload is tomorrow, 8 Eastern, twitch.tv/HighNoonPodcast. Tune in for that. Blackwatch Report again on Wednesday. Big episodes, big guests on that one. So, guys, you can check out everything that we do over at highnoonpodcast.com. iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, all of the iTunes reviews, all of the likes, the retweets, the comments, the follows, all that stuff helps a ton. We are at a point where even one single thing helps out a ton. Really do appreciate everything. And of course, you can always support us over at patreon.com/highnoonpodcast. But that is going to be it for Deathblow. I'm Blevins, and remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat.
threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now guides my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
I want Golden Boy to do... I want him to just go full-blown WWE announcer for the All-Star Game. I want it to be over the top. I don't care what it is. I want it to be entertaining, because if it's bad, it's going to be real bad.